LibertyCon 2021. This is the What's New from Silver Empire Publishing panel. I am Russell Newquist, publisher at Silver Empire, and my wife, Morgan Newquist, with the lovely avatar today, co-publisher. Joining us today, we have Richard Watts. Richard, give us a good wave. Author of Atlantean Archons. We have Paula Richey. Give us a wave, Paula. Author of Penance Copper. We have Dan Humphreys. Dan, give us a huge wave there. Returning LibertyCon vet, author of the Z-Day series and the Paxton Locke series. We have Marina Fontaine. Marina, give us a good wave. Author of The Product and you got to remind me the title, the one we just put out.
Chasing Freedom.
Chasing Freedom. I got them backwards. The Product's the one we just put out, isn't it?
Yes.
Two great books, interesting there. We're going to talk about those more later. Ann Lewis, give us a wave. Another returning LibertyCon vet, and so was Marina. I should have mentioned that a second ago. Author of our lovely science fantasy space opera series there. Wonderful series.
Corruption.
Nephilim Corruption. Thank you.
Yes,
a lot of too many titles. They're all leaving my brain here. Plus, it's late at night. I've been out in the sun all day. Hans Shantz joining us. Hans is the author of the Hidden Truth series. Got several books there, and he has an extremely interesting side project there that we've been talking about that I want to ask him about later in the broadcast. We'll get going there. So glad to have everybody with us. Glad to be sharing what's going on. Let's see. We've got a couple new things that have just come out from some of you guys. Let's talk about those first. Let's see. Looking at who's here and what order to go in. Anne has her hand up. That's probably not what she meant to do, but I'm going to interpret it that way and put her on the spot because I know she loves
sorry,
that.
I was adjusting my headset. Am I echoing?
No, I don't think so. There was a weird noise when you touched your headset, but it sounds good now. So, Nephilim Corruption. Tell us a little bit about your book, what's going on with that, and we have a little bit of news to share there too as well. Let's start with your book though.
All right, Nephilim Corruption is a story about a soldier who makes a mistake on the battlefield, and he spends the rest of the book paying for it. And it is definitely a space opera. You have a princess that gets kidnapped. You have a big tough guy with a sword that goes and tries to save her. There's spaceships, and it's a fun book. I just finished the draft on book 2, so it's looking pretty good. Now the name of the series is Warrior of the Kazan. Which, do you want me to tell the whole history of how the book came about and ended up with you, Russell, or do we want to bother with that?
Well, a lot of the books ended up with us via weird histories, which is fine. We're doing our best trying to keep up with a lot of that, and sometimes we're struggling a bit. But sure, tell us your story.
All right, so I wrote the book initially, and it was published by Superversive Press, which ended up folding, and I didn't have a home, so I asked Russell if he would look at it, and they liked it. So that was actually I got saved. I got saved by Russell Newquist. So it turned out pretty good. I love the new cover. The new cover is really lovely. And a new title
really
too.
Happy with how that came out. That was a beautiful cover. I have to agree. I wish I had it. I don't have copies of anything because I'm not at home at the moment, but I wish I had one of those to show. It is beautiful. Came out really nicely. Yeah, it's a great story. I liked one of the things I liked about that really caught my eye was the way that you kind of took some of the a little bit more obscure Christian mythology and just kind of brought it into a sci-fi setting in a way that really felt fairly different from anything else I'd seen before. Enjoyed that. And if you're not super into the...
Go ahead.
You go ahead first.
Oh no, one of my friends called it Jews in space, but it's not.
Kinda.
Really, they're actually ancient Sumerians. So it's kind of like if you take ancient Sumerian culture and kind of advanced it several thousand years, what would they look like?
It's
So
also
they
a
really
bit
are
more
with swearing.
serious than a Mel Brooks film, so I'll give you credit on that.
And it was a lot of fun. And I got a compliment from a friend of mine. He said normally when you see the title Nephilim, you go, oh, you don't want to read, because he said a lot of these the books that have Nephilim in them are, they're just not fun to read. He said this one, he said someone actually handled it pretty well. So I'm glad that he thought that, because he was pretty negative about the
So
whole idea of Nephilim in the title.
that's
But
been one of our shticks for a long time that we're kind of big on here at Silver Empire, is the honest truth that most Christian fiction's kind of bad. And let's just be honest, it's mostly bad. So we try to do the stuff that's not, instead of, we try to be badass instead of bad. I'll leave it up to the readers as to whether we succeed on that or not. Yeah, fun book. Let's see what else came out very recently. We've got a couple here. I'm going to hit up Marina next, and let you talk about yours that we just re-released as well.
Right. So the most recent re-release is The Product, also originally from the Superversive Press. I can't believe you guys gave me a better cover than I had before, because I loved the old cover, but when I saw the new one, I was like, oh my gosh, it hits every point that needed to be hit. Anyway, I write dystopias. I do things a little differently with my stories. I try for my dystopias to be realistic enough, but not dreary. And I do that by thinking, people still live their lives, even like in the worst of times and the worst of societies. People find love, people have kids, people find joy wherever they can. And I give the same to my characters. They go through some horrible times, but they also find all the things that make life worth living. The product specifically, believe it or not, was kind of inspired by a true story. My boyfriend was really arrested in the Soviet Union by possessing the thing that is illegal in this book. No, he was not a drug dealer. I can give that away. I did not date a drug dealer. Be that as it may, I do not reveal what it is. I let people kind of figure it out by themselves.
And that's something I definitely wanted to hit on with you, Marina, because I think it's one of the interesting things about your book is a lot of us here, a lot of us as Americans like to write about dystopias, and we capture stuff from what we've read and what we've seen, but you actually lived it. Tell me again, when did you emigrate from the Soviet Union?
I left in 1987,
Okay.
which was when Perestroika was just beginning.
Right.
But obviously before the Berlin Wall fell and everything. So I was 19, so I got to live during the tail end of it. That's why actually in Chasing Freedom, I cover quite a bit of it as to what happens when these totalitarian societies exist for a while and the corruption that kind of settles in.
Right.
And the ways that you can kind of work around the system and undermine it in unexpected ways, and also how eventually this corruption ends up bringing the system down. More than obviously the dissenters and the rebels help it along and start it and give people inspiration that things can get better. But eventually, humans are humans at every level, and eventually it will not last. It might last. The Soviet Union lasted for 70 years. It is a long time, but most of the time, a society that's large enough and diverse enough, totalitarianism does not last. That's why, if you notice, 1984 was kind of set in the version of Britain, kind of a very secluded society. All of these, a lot of these dystopias, like you don't know if there is a world around them. It's like one little space that you can't escape from. But in reality, in a large country, there are always a way to fight back, and again, to find a way to carve out a life for yourself while trying to build something better.
The timing on that when you left is interesting to me. By a sheer coincidence and a little bit of luck, I was actually in Russia in the spring of 1991. No, 1992. I was in Russia in the spring of '92. So shortly after the Berlin Wall had come down, and we were supposed to be there the spring before, or the fall before, and they ended up canceling our trip because the coup attempt and the famous Boris Yeltsin in the tank, everything there. So we ended up there right after everything had kind of fallen apart, and it was extremely strange. It was a very strange place to be because everybody had been through everything you just described, and all of that was kind of stopping, but nobody really kind of knew what to do next at that point in time, and how to live without it. You know, people were kind of figuring out the way. It was a really interesting time to be there from a very different perspective. And it's interesting how just a few short years like that can make a really big difference, because I bet it was very different in '87 when you left. Interesting thing. Yeah, check out her books, The Product and Chasing Freedom. Both of them pretty strong. I'm going to go back to one of our other recent releases next. I'm going to hit up Paula Richey and thank her for joining us tonight and let her talk about Penance.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Let's see. I'm not real good on camera, but I'm doing my best here, y'all. I'm trying. So, Penance is the first book in the Teen Heroes Unleashed section of the Heroes Unleashed universe. And I was really interested in tying this in with Morgan's book, Heroes Fall. And so I have a few threads that go back to that. But Penance is about a scrappy street girl who has superpowers, and she's done being exploited for them. And so during this rather terrible plan for escape that she sort of halfway thinks of, everything goes to pieces, and she ends up in the middle of an intergalactic incident, and there's a whole football stadium that's held hostage, and you know, a lot goes wrong at every turn. So I really didn't want to have the perfect, the typical female protagonist who just shows up and everything's going really great, and everyone just loves her to pieces, and they just give her all her stuff. Yet the opposite of that happens at every turn. So.
I know we were excited to get that and to add a little bit more to the Heroes Unleashed series and expand that saga. For those who are joining in who don't know, the Heroes Unleashed world is kind of our little superhero sandbox here at Silver Empire. We've got several series out in it now. Morgan, who will be talking later, has her series Serenity City, started with Heroes Fall, about kind of what happens after one of the best superheroes goes, let's just say he has a bad day and drags a lot of people down with him. Richard will be talking with us later about his series, which is kind of the Doctor Strange of our world, the Atlantean Archons. We got a couple authors who weren't here with us tonight. Kaiwai Che has his series. It's a little bit of Daredevil meets Punisher with his Hollow City series, and John Mollison has has his series about the not quite invisible man. I'll phrase it that. And J.D. Cohen with his series that's a little bit of the Green Lantern of the world. So lots of different things to choose from there. Paula, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what got you going in that particular character and in that headspace, and what made you want to write that story?
It's really interesting that this character, Penance, has been with me for, oh goodness, a long time. I think I first started getting an idea of her character when I was like 14 years old, and I did not have a universe for her. And I built this whole universe from my other stories called The Other Realm, and it's got the steampunk era and the fantasy era in it, and there's a lot of stories that can fit in there. But Penance had a whole superhero arc, and there was nowhere to put that in the universe that I built, which, as she started like gathering other characters to interact with, I had nowhere to put all these people. They had this really complex story that was coming together, that I would just keep spinning for years. And I thought, well, I can't write this story. I'll never publish it. There's this huge part of Penance's arc where she's trying to become a better person, and she latches onto Jesus for that. And the Christian publishers won't take that because I have stuff that happens in this book. Because she has a really terrible life beforehand, and there's a lot of things for her to deal with. And the secular publishers won't take this. So I was having a great time with my characters. And I just kept spinning out the story forever. And then I came across Silver Empire, and you were in a space that was in between the secular and being willing to deal with a lot of topics, and Christian, in which you weren't like backing away like a vampire from holy water at the mention of Jesus. And I was trying really hard not to do this preachy thing where everything goes right after she gives her heart to Jesus, and like the typical Christian fiction that I was attempting to read at the time. So I tried to handle that in the least cringe way possible. But I'd already been to some writers' conferences and realized that there was no place for my book until I found Silver Empire. And so I sent it to you, and you're like, well, we're not publishing any more hero books because they need to be in our universe. I'm like, well,
right.
By an amazing coincidence, my characters are homeless and they have no universe. So it really worked out amazingly, and it was like it was meant to be.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm going to pick up something Morgan and I have talked about, because I'm pretty sure you were the one who said it in another social media setting, pretty much describing exactly what you just described. The phrase too secular for the Christian publishers and too Christian for the mainstream publishers. Sorry, I'm a little tired tonight. But I think that does describe a lot of what we do, actually, is to try and occupy that middle ground of trying not to be preachy, but to let you explore it and to let you exist in that space and to have it. We're really glad to have the series, and glad at how well it's fit in with everything, and really excited to have it there. And that one is Penance. It's available on Amazon now. Would love to see more people reading those. While we're on the topic of Heroes Unleashed, I'm going to pop over to Richard Watts, who is also joining us tonight. And I'm going to let him talk for a little bit about his. It's not quite new at the moment, but that's okay. We'll delve into the back catalog some and let you talk about Atlantean Archons.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's I guess it's been a year since it came out, right?
Right about that.
So the Atlantean Archon series actually came out of some conversations that I had with Russell and Morgan up at Extra Life. That's where I pulled some inspiration from. I'm a long time comic book geezer and been reading things and playing games, and we were having some discussion over that, and I pulled some of that in for it. But I think the book itself is like Russell said, I got to create the Doctor Strange of the universe, so I had magic, and what's more magical than Atlantis? And so I immediately blew it up. But the story actually follows the last Atlantean and his most recent apprentice, and the Atlantean guy is teaching him all this ancient knowledge of the magic of Atlantis, but he's dying, and he knows he's dying, and an old enemy resurfaces, and they have to deal with that. And I said it in Atlanta because I can't resist a dad joke, and we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with the characters. One of the things that I tried to focus on with the book was the relationship between the mentor and his apprentice, because in the comic books as they stand now, you might get a temporary switchover. You know, I think you lose Batman, he dies, and somebody else becomes Batman, and then you restore it, right? Everything goes back to status quo. And I don't think that that's as meaningful as the handoff. And so for this first book, it really focuses on the handoff of the superhero mantle from one guy who's been doing it a long, long time to his apprentice who's new at the game. And I hope I did it justice. Those relationships, I think, are key to why some of the things that have worked so well in popular culture recently work so well. For example, Black Panther. Say what you want about the movie, about the themes of it, but the main theme of it was the impact of fathers, their presence or their absence, and their choices and how that reflects. And I think that that's all through comics. I mean, if you look at Batman, part of the reason he became Batman is because his father's gone. If you look at Superman, Jor-El gave him his powers, right? His Kryptonian father gave him his powers, but it's Jonathan Kent who raises him up and teaches him how to fly, how to be a hero, right? And those are the things that really resonate with people. And I hope that we touched on that theme in the book and gave people a lot of fun superhero action at the same time.
It's fun. Yeah, and gave us an excuse to expand Heroes Unleashed into the mystical realm a little bit and bring that world in. Yeah, fun stuff over there. I'm going to pop over to Dan Humphreys next. We'll let him talk because we've got we don't have new, but that just came out, but we have new in the sense of stuff that's just about to. Tell us what's new in the Paxton Locke world, Dan.
Well, I got books 4 and 5 are 4 is pretty much complete. 5's getting edited. I'm trying to. The bad part is that I've been in 5 with it for so long. I'm trying to remember what I could say about 4 and not spoil. But 4 kind of builds upon a antagonist that was sort of a cameo in some earlier books, and kind of goes from there, along with some other. I'm trying. It's hard. I'm trying not. I don't want to
There's some major events in book 4 and book 5 that he's trying not to spoil. I'll give him a little.
Yeah. So in 3, Paxton began working for the government division that deals with paranormal threats, and it basically escalates from there. It's not so much a world-ending threat, but it's a lot more of a personal threat. So that was an interesting way to write it for me. Was the first trilogy was pretty much apocalyptic, stop this or else it's literally the end of the world, whereas this is not so much the end of the world, to the point that a lot of people don't necessarily think that it's a problem that needs to be dealt with. So it was kind of interesting to deal with that a little bit. So, those are done, and those should be out fairly close together, or people will probably become
I think he's breaking up.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was me or him. Dan, I think we lost you there for a second. Why don't you repeat that for us?
I'm not sure where you lost it, but those should be coming out in pretty close proximity, hopefully.
Yeah, it's not any better. I'm just going to take a moment to appreciate the irony that the one guy in the group who actually works as an IT specialist is the one who's it's breaking up on us. You're not selling yourself well, Dan, here. Yeah, you might want to try. Hans is suggesting in the chat you might want to try turning off the camera to save the bandwidth and see if your voice comes through.
Yeah, I would think that wouldn't be a problem, but maybe it is. Is that any better?
Crystal clear, man.
Oh, weird. Okay. So I don't know what all came. Where did it start going bad? I guess.
I heard something about it's not the end of the world. We're going more personal, and then a lot of stuff broke up.
So the first trilogy, it was very apocalyptic. We have to stop this situation, or it's literally the end of the world for everybody. Whereas in this arc, it's a little bit more personal, which that makes it interesting from the viewpoint that Paxton's not a free agent anymore. He's working for, he has to answer to people, and there's some debate and argument as to whether the situation they're facing is something that even really should be addressed. So, and that kind of, in a way, he's kind of continuing to grow up, because, it used to be he was just, the Lone Ranger cowboy, and he saw a problem, he'd go take care of it, and he's finding out that that isn't exactly going to fly anymore, and how he deals with that going forward. So.
It's fun stuff. I can say that I have read both books. I finished book 5 just the other night here on vacation. Really enjoyed them both, and looking forward to getting them out as quick as we can. And they should be coming up very soon. We are we're really just waiting on our cover artist to get us the print covers done. And then we should be good to go. Hans, I'm going to jump to you for a minute and let you talk about your Hidden Truth series. And then I'll pop back to everybody and ask about what's coming down the pipeline. Actually, I'm going to rephrase that. We've got one from Morgan that's coming up soon. I'm going to let her talk after Hans. Then we'll hit everybody again. Go ahead, Hans. Tell us about the Hidden Truth.
Well, I have been working on the sequel to The Brave and the Bold. It has been in the background for a while because I've been busy on another project that I'll, if we have time, maybe we can circle back, Russell, and
absolutely, we're going to circle back. I want you to talk about that one. It's interesting.
But what I concluded is I was not going to be able to finish The Hidden Truth in one more book. So the good news, if you've been waiting for it for a while, is there will be 3 more Hidden Truth books. The titles will be From Far and Near, Rambling and Gambling, and then A Hell of an Engineer will be the concluding title. So where we left off in The Brave and the Bold, in an alternate universe where President Gore was killed by the 9/11 hijackers, and our hero is trying to understand who is really running things and how they have been trying to change the past to control the present and rule the future. Our hero managed to thwart a major plot by the bad guys in The Brave and the Bold, and From Far and Near goes back to Georgia Tech in the midst of the 2006 election, and discovers that even though it looked as though he had defeated the bad guys, they're regrouping, and now everyone is scrambling to try to take over the world. So I think that's about as much as I can say without giving too much away.
Would you tell us a little bit about what got you started writing that series?
Well, I got started writing it because I had made some interesting discoveries in physics that I thought really ought to, by right, have been discovered over 100 years ago by people like Oliver Heaviside and Heinrich Hertz. Only a lot of those early pioneers of electromagnetics died early. Maxwell died in his 40s. Hertz died in his 30s. And it seemed like a remarkable coincidence. I decided to turn that into the background of a novel, the premise being that all the things I've been working on really were discovered, but were suppressed by an evil conspiracy bent upon world domination. The conspiracy that's behind and pulling the strings of people like the Illuminati and all of the other conspiracies that you might merely think are really running the show. So that was the premise of my alternate history book.
Nice, fun. Those are good fun reads. I've mentioned before they remind me a lot of Michael Crichton's work, actually. For those who are looking for something. Morgan, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Neighborhood Watch series and what's coming with that?
Okay. The first book of the Neighborhood Watch came out, I guess, in January on the Silver Empire site, and then it will be up on Amazon sometime soon. The Neighborhood Watch is urban fantasy, but it was my failed effort to do right to market urban fantasy because I guess I can't follow rules. And it, instead of being in a city, which comes with the urban fantasy genre, it's set in a neighborhood, and I wanted to bring everything down to be like small scale, right? Because you always have in urban fantasy things just kind of keep spinning up until it's an apocalypse and everything, but I wanted a series that stayed like really small and really local. So the Neighborhood Watch is about Amelia, a party girl who just got dumped by her boyfriend and doesn't want to move back in with her mom because her mom told her not to date that guy. And so she moves in with her grandfather instead, and her grandfather is the head of the local Neighborhood Watch, which she thinks is really stupid. But he starts having health problems, and she discovers that his head of the Neighborhood Watch is not a normal head of the Neighborhood Watch, that there's all kinds of things like fae and witches and monsters and all of that living in the neighborhood, and since he is sick and in the hospital, she is going to have to deal with it, and that is the basic premise for it. So
yeah, it's a fun little series there. Good reads going on. I'm going to circle back around, and I don't even remember what order I went in the first place. So if I don't get everybody in the exact same order, then we'll just deal with that. But let's talk about what's coming next. Anne, I know you have some news to share on yours because we just got it the other day.
Oh, you're talking about the audio?
Well, we've got the audio book coming up. Hopefully, we'll get that up online next week. But tell us about book 2.
Oh, book 2. Yay. Yeah. I just finished the draft on that. I'm in the middle of rewriting it. So that'd be beta probably in the next week or so, I think. I'm shopping a lot.
So book
It's
2.
usually I overwrite. I mean, I overwrite. It was like 160,000 words. It's like no. So it'll be 100,000 by the time I'm done. I usually get it down to 100,000. So I write monsters, and I have very complicated plots. I mean, I don't know if you guys. It's kind of like I really loved. Well, I mean, I started out. One of the first books I ever wrote was a Star Wars book. It was not fiction. It was nonfiction. So I love Star Wars. Or the original concept of what Star Wars was, not what it's become. And I also love Babylon 5. I like really involved plot lines where there's a lot of things going on, lots of layers. So, and that's kind of what you got, Russell. You've got kind of like a, biblical space opera-ish sort of with, Sumerian overtones with lots of plot lines, like 5 or 6 things going on at one time, and it all kind of comes to a head at the end, which is what Star Wars should be, right? What a space opera should be. So that's what book 2 is.
I'm looking forward to that. I love the way book 2. Only
I just finished. But you have to understand. Okay, I'm slow. Everybody else in this group writes faster than I do. I am like molasses. I swear I am. But I do get it done. And yeah. It just takes me a while, and it's one of the things Declan always picks on me. But which, by the way, I don't know if he's told you this. We found out a way to cross our universes over, and he's actually started writing it. He's been sending me chunks, and I'm like, this is really weird. I know Russell's like, how could you cross these things over? Well,
no, that's
St.
not my
Tommy has
issue.
fought everything else.
That's not my issue, and my issue is that I already can't keep up with what Declan's writing. So.
He's like the fastest man alive. I mean, I swear. But then again, he doesn't work. Well, that is his full-time job. I mean, I work full-time, and raising kids, trying to get a kid in college and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's not an excuse. It's just the way it happens.
No, that's fun, and that's one of the things that I enjoyed about book 1 is it is a very old school, rescue the princess space opera kind of story. Very much in the vein of the original Star Wars film. Quite enjoyed that. That was good. So yeah, first draft is done, and so that bodes well for getting that out in a reasonable time frame. Really excited to have that happening.
And we
Marina,
have an audio.
we have an audio book of the first book that should be coming up very soon. As soon as we get that taken care of.
Okay, Marina.
Marina, what are you working on these days?
My job, the day job. Yeah, seriously. I kind of have been on and off on one of my projects for about 2 years that I just can't bring myself to finish. It's about 75% done, but I just didn't get to finish it, and then I got attacked by something else last year, which I started, and I'm about, I'd say, 25% in on that one. So I'm kind of going back and forth between the two, hoping to get something done. But it'll get there.
Right.
That's kind of what happens when you write with no deadlines. Someday.
we just won't mention how long it's been since my last book came out, so that's all good. Paula, every time I look up, it seems
it's been 3 years.
I said we won't mention it,
and suddenly I don't feel so bad. Thank you.
Paula, every time I look up, it seems like you're doing a new project. What do you have going on?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I have my comic series.
Did she freeze?
Soulbound, which will be 10 issues. There's been a bit of a delay on it with my artist, but we're rolling slowly. I actually have here's the first issue.
Nice.
Yeah, my artist is amazing, and I love her so much. and I am also an artist, so I'm doing the colors. And let's see, I'm also going to do like a light novel based on the comic series. And also I'm working on the second book in the Penance series, so we get to see what happens after the first section, because this, at first I thought it was going to be just one fairly short book, but apparently there's 3. Yeah, it's bigger than I thought. Once I finally got it out of my head and on the paper, it was much bigger than I thought.
It's amazing how that happens. You get started and you're like, nope, there's more here.
Yeah, and I had to end at what I thought was a relatively minor plot point in the first book. So things are going to be ramping up so much by the end of book 2 and book 3. Yeah, I know everything that's going to happen. It's just getting it on the paper.
All right.
And what else am I doing? Those are the 2 major ones. Let's stick with that.
Cool. Richard, how's life coming in the Atlantean world?
Slow. I'm working on book 2, and it's coming together, and following the fallout of some decisions that were made in book 1 by the characters, and we get to have a little bigger role for some of them than in the past, and I think that'll be fun to work on. My job changed a bunch. The reason I'm wearing a tie, guys, is not because I'm stuffy. It's because I work at a high school, and I just came from graduation tonight, so that's I'm here. Also, I want to take this opportunity to say to Anne Lewis, you are now my favorite on the panel because you put Babylon 5 in your space opera. Thank you.
No boom today. Boom tomorrow. Boom today. No boom today.
Yes. But I'm working on book 2 and just plugging away at it at very sub Ben Chiha or Declan Finn speeds. So we'll see how that goes. But man, all these projects have me super excited. My reading list just keeps getting bigger, guys.
Richard, you just got to ditch that crazy idea that molding young minds is important and get on your writing, man. Get on it.
Hey, some of them read the book and liked it, so I'm
okay.
Just,
I guess they're all right.
Pushing it to the younger audience. Okay.
Dan, where are you heading next? After we've got 2 books about to drop, so that's a lot. Where are you heading next after that?
So I'm waiting on one more story to release, re-release the Z-Day anthology, which would be the 4th book in that series. And then I've started writing the 5th book in that. So
nice.
Hopefully both of those will be coming out before the end of the year. I still owe Morgan a Heroes Unleashed book that I'm halfway, 3/4 of the way through. So I need to sit down and power through that at some point. I've got another 4, maybe 5 Paxton books outlined. So I've got plenty to choose from. It's just depending on where the wind takes me, I guess.
All right. Good stuff. Hans, I'm going to give you a minute. You've got a very interesting nonfiction project that you've been talking to me about for a while. How much do you feel comfortable sharing at this point?
Well, I can tell you all a little bit about it. It's a book called Fields and Energy: How Reality Works. And it's sharing my physics ideas that I mentioned earlier in a way that I think should be accessible to general audiences. In fact, it's been really fun taking my fiction writing skills and kind of merging it with this writing of nonfiction, because my physics book is really an action adventure mystery thriller about the conflict between the atomistic view of reality, of everything being particles, and the continuum view of reality, of everything being a plenum or fields. and I trace that conflict historically from Greek times through to the present. And spoiler alert, the answer is that reality isn't one thing that is both fields and energy. It is two things, one of which is fields and the other of which is energy. And that is kind of a subtle distinction, but it's a distinction that lets you make sense of a lot of paradoxes in quantum mechanics in particular and physics in general. And in fact, I have another talk that I'll be giving on the science track at LibertyCon on wave-particle duality, where I will go into that in a lot more detail. But that book is now about 90% or so complete, and I think I will finally have it out before the end of the year, and I'd be comfortable promising that, except I have been so wrong on my book forecasts for getting books out that I hesitate to make a firm commitment on that. But fortunately, it looks like there's a lot of other interesting things coming from Silver Empire for me to take my book club membership and buy. I've already gotten a lot of great ideas from this panel of things that I need to take a look at, and appreciate the opportunity to learn what everyone else is doing and share with you all what I'm up to.
All right. I know it sounds it can sound dry and sciencey, but I've had a lot of chats with Hans about that over the last year or three, and I'm really curious to see what he's got going in that. Looking forward to trying it out. Morgan, why don't you finish us up and tell us what you've got coming down the pipeline?
I am 2/3 of the way through with the Serenity City Book 2, the sequel to Heroes Fall. I'm hoping that I will have that one done this year. It's very complicated, though, so it takes me a long time to write, and I keep thinking I've got it all figured out, and then I write a bunch and go, and then realize that there's something else that I need to fix that's not quite fitting in the right place. So I'm working on that. I have a sort of classic sword and sorcery fantasy book that I co-wrote with John Delarose that is waiting on its cover typography, and then when that is done, it will be out, and it's called The Dryad Queen, and it's the first of 3 books in the King's Blood series. And I think I should actually have the second Neighborhood Watch book done this year. So that's what's on my plate.
Fun times. So if you're interested in these books and more, you can find them on Amazon. You can find them on our website at silverempire.org. You can get a killer deal on our book club where you can get memberships to you get credits like Audible, and you can store them up for as long as you like and spend them on books as you find them useful. And I think that's what we have, and I think we're also coming up pretty close on the time for this. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Glad to have you all here tonight, and thanks to LibertyCon for hosting us. And
Do we want to go around one more time? Everyone say their names and their stuff and where to find it.
Yeah, great plan. I'm just going to start at the upper left of my screen, and we'll go in that order. Just tell us who you are, what you wrote, and go from there. Richard, go.
Hi, Richard Watts, author of The Last Archon, available from Silver Empire and Amazon.
Paula Richey, author of Penance, Book 1 of the Teen Heroes Unleashed. Going to be a trilogy.
I'm Russell Newquist. I'm the author of War Demons, and hopefully someday there will actually be a sequel called Spirit Cooking. Dan, you're up.
Dan Humphreys wrote the Z-Day post-apocalyptic series, and also the Paxton Locke urban fantasy series.
Marina?
I'm Marina Fontaine. I am an author of The Product and Chasing Freedom, Both are available from silverempire.org. Chasing Freedom is also available on Amazon.
Anne?
Anne Lewis, Anne Margaret Lewis, and I'm the author of The Warrior of the Kazan series, which the first one is Nephilim Corruption, and that is available on Silver Empire and on Amazon.
Hans?
Let me unmute myself there. I am Hans Shantz. I'm the author of the Hidden Truth series, The Hidden Truth, A Rambling Wreck, and The Brave and the Bold, and coming soon, Fields and Energy, How Reality Works.
And
Morgan.
Oh, sorry. And I'm Morgan Newquist, and I'm the author of Heroes Fall, which launched our Heroes Unleashed superhero universe. And I also released Hellgate, the Neighborhood Watch Book 1 this year. And you can find my stuff on silverempire.org.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And thanks again to LibertyCon for having us.
Thank you, LibertyCon.